What if your biggest struggle was actually the sacred role your soul agreed to embody? Saturn isn't just the planet of restriction and responsibility, it's the keeper of your karmic contract, the invisible agreement we made before birth, the emotional labor you've always done, the burden you carry that no one else sees, and the standard your soul is here to restore, not escape. Each Saturn sign holds a different soul assignment, not one that's chosen from ease or comfort, but one chosen from devotion and growth, mastery and becoming. In this video, we're going to explore how your Saturn sign reveals the karmic contract you inherited and how it shaped your identity, the survival role you've played to feel safe, accepted, or loved, and how to finally rewrite the contract from pressure into power. So grab your birth chart, find your Saturn sign, and let's uncover the sacred responsibility your soul came here to remember.
With Saturn in Aries, you came into this life with a contract to forge your own path, even if it meant walking alone. Your soul agreed to learn courage from the inside out. Not performative bravery, but soul level self trust that no one could give you and no one could take away. But this contract didn't start with confidence. It started with hypervigilance, with an unspoken belief that if you didn't take care of yourself, no one would. You learned to anticipate disappointment, to move quickly, act independently, and mask your vulnerability behind control, silence, or avoidance. This energy says, I'll be the fire. I won't wait for anyone else to light it. But the deeper truth is, you didn't choose independence. It was forced on you, whether emotionally, spiritually, or physically. You were placed in situations where depending on others didn't feel safe. And so your soul built an armor of radical autonomy. This contract isn't about isolation. It's about becoming the source of your own initiation and reclaiming the right to receive without betraying your strength. To survive this karmic contract, you learned to rely on no one. You became the initiator, the problem solver, the one who never needed help. You might have felt more comfortable taking action than asking for support because vulnerability was something you associated with weakness, danger, or disappointment. This often looks like overfunctioning in crisis and underfunctioning in intimacy, rejecting authority or mentorship out of a need to prove yourself, acting quickly to avoid feeling helpless or stuck, or being emotionally guarded, even with people you love. This survival role was rooted in fear. If I let anyone in, I might lose myself. So you kept your walls high. You turned every setback into a solo mission. And you became addicted to the high of doing it all on your own. But the truth is that being first doesn't mean you have to go without. And strength isn't proven through isolation. It's proven through embodied choice. Over time, the solo path stops feeling empowering and starts to feel exhausting. The burden of Saturn in Aries builds when you feel shame for needing help, slowing down, or not having the answer. When you push through burnout because rest feels like failure. When you avoid close relationships that require interdependence. Or when you live in a constant state of urgency or defensiveness, never feeling fully safe. The deeper you get into your Saturn pattern, the more life starts to feel like a battlefield where you're always either winning or losing, leading or being left behind. You may carry invisible rage, repressed grief, the ache of unacknowledged pain from all the times you had to be strong when what you really needed was to be held. But Saturn doesn't want you to conquer the world alone. It wants you to remember your will is sacred, but so is your softness. You don't have to prove your power by burning yourself out. Saturn in Aries becomes magnetic when you stop reacting to life and start creating it with conscious, embodied intention. The first step to achieving this is to redefine strength as self-trust, not self-denial. Strength doesn't mean pushing past your limits. It means knowing them and choosing what honors you. Start asking, does this action come from fear or from alignment? Let your go mode be sacred, not reactive. You are powerful, not because you force your way forward, but because you know when to pause. Next is to ask for support without apologizing for it. Needing help doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Practice letting others in, not because you can't do it alone, but because you deserve to not have to. The more you allow yourself to receive, the more energy you reclaim for what really matters. Next is to break the addiction to urgency. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not failing. Slow is not the enemy. Unconscious speed is. Create space in your day for intentional action, not just reaction. Your timing is divine. You don't need to fight time. You need to trust your pace. Next is to create rituals that connect you to your body. Aries rules instinct, movement, and embodiment. But Saturn can block you from your own fire. Reignite it through grounded rituals, such as breath work, primal movement, exercise that feels empowering, somatic journaling, or time in nature. You are not just a thinker or a doer. You are a living flame. So feed it. And finally, let yourself begin again without shame. You are here to initiate new cycles, to be the first, the brave one, the pioneer. But not every start will be perfect. Not every fire will burn clean. Give yourself permission to begin imperfectly, to course correct, to evolve. Your courage isn't measured by flawless execution. It's measured by your willingness to keep showing up anyway. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Aries is, I trust my fire. I lead from alignment, not urgency. And I never abandon myself to prove my strength. If this stirs something in you, say so in the comments. I want to hear it. And if your higher self is clapping, be sure to hit like, send this to someone who's ready to hear it, and subscribe to stay tuned in. And you don't have to keep chasing connection to feel chosen. My Venus Activation Journal walks you through healing the parts of you that forgot you were the prize. So start your new self-love story through the link below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Taurus, your soul made a vow to become the anchor, to create peace, predictability, and material safety, often in places where there was none. Whether emotionally, financially, or physically, you inherited the silent responsibility to hold steady when everything else felt unstable. This placement carries the karmic contract. I'll be the one who makes things last. But what others didn't see was the cost. You were often the one who had to stay calm, grounded, and unshakable, even when your internal world was filled with fear, scarcity, or longing. You learned that being too much, too needy, or too chaotic could cost you safety. So you buried your hunger, suppressed your change, and clung to what was familiar. This energy often shows up in early life as financial struggle, emotional neglect, or spiritual scarcity. Not because you were meant to suffer, but because your soul came here to rebuild your relationship to worth from the ground up. You are not here to just survive stability. You are here to define what's truly valuable and create it from within. To survive this contract, you became the provider, the stabilizer, the calm in the storm. Even if no one asked it of you directly, you felt it. The need to be the steady one, the solid one, the one who wouldn't crumble, flinch, or fail. And so you built routines, held on to relationships, and stayed in environments that gave you a sense of security, even if they secretly cost you your joy. This survival identity often looks like staying in jobs or commitments out of loyalty or fear of loss, prioritizing comfort over growth, even when you feel stuck, associating worth with possessions, appearances, or predictability, or feeling deeply unsafe when faced with change or emotional chaos. You became the person who doesn't ask for more, because you convinced yourself that stability was the highest goal. But deep down, you've always known there's more to life than just maintaining what you have. Your soul is craving richness, not just routine. The burden of Saturn in Taurus becomes unbearable when your worth is externalized, when you define your value by how much you've acquired, how consistent you've been, or how well you've avoided risk. And when the fear of starting over becomes bigger than the pull toward your evolution. So you may carry guilt for wanting more when others are struggling. Fear of financial loss that keeps you stuck in scarcity or overworking. Resistance to emotional vulnerability because it feels unstable. Or an unconscious belief that you must earn pleasure, rest, or abundance. You've held yourself to an impossible standard of, I must always have it together. And when life inevitably shifts, as it always does, you may feel like you failed, even though energetically you're being asked to expand into something richer. Saturn will keep applying pressure until you realize true security comes from within, not from control, fear, or accumulation. You are not here to hoard resources or emotions. You are here to build a life of embodied abundance, where your value isn't conditional and your happiness isn't delayed. Saturn in Taurus becomes sacred when you root yourself in self-worth and not survival. The first step to achieving this is to redefine abundance as a state of being, not a number. You don't have to wait until you've earned enough to feel safe, worthy, or deserving. Let abundance be a vibration you practice, not a finish line you chase. Ask yourself daily, what would I do if I already felt secure? Let that version of you make the next move. Next is to nourish your body as a sacred home, not a productivity machine. Your body isn't a burden, it's a temple. Create rhythms that honor your physical and emotional needs. So, slow mornings, soothing meals, gentle touch, ritual baths, or rest without shame. The more you tend to your body, the more magnetic your energy becomes. Taurus doesn't just create wealth, it attracts it through embodiment. Next is to release what's familiar but no longer fertile. You can love your routines and still outgrow them. Comfort is not the same as alignment. If something feels stable but secretly drains you, it's time to let it go. Your worth is not measured by your ability to stay. It's revealed in your willingness to trust your inner yes, even if it leads you somewhere unfamiliar. Next is to anchor in internal worth before you chase external proof. You don't have to perform value. You are value. When you start making decisions based on your inherent worth, not your fear of losing something, the world mirrors that energy back. Practice investing in your dreams, your pleasure, your voice, not because you've earned it, but because you're already enough. And finally, let pleasure be part of the plan, not the prize at the end. You are not here to grind your way to satisfaction. You're here to experience life through sensory richness, beauty, and ease. Make joy part of the structure, not something you save for after you've proven yourself. The more you enjoy what you have now, the more life expands in your favor. A great affirmation for your Saturn and Taurus is, I am rooted in my worth. My stability flows from within, and I deserve a life that feels as rich as it looks. All right, your turn. What part called you out the most? Drop it in the comments. I want to know. And of course, if this lit you up, hit like, share it with your soul squad, and subscribe so you never miss the next download. And let's turn this insight into action. Grab a digital journal, either As Above, So Within, or my Venus Activation Guide. Dive into my courses, my Higher Self audio guidance, or book a one-on-one with me. All of my links are below, so be sure to check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Gemini, you came into this life with a contract to carry the weight of communication, to find the right words, to speak the truth, to bring clarity into confusion. But that clarity often came at a price because your soul agreed to become the translator, the bridge, the interpreter between worlds, people, or perspectives that never quite made sense together. This energy often emerges in early life as feeling unheard, dismissed, or misunderstood. You may have felt the need to speak up, explain yourself, justify your thoughts, or intellectualize your emotions, even when no one was really listening. It wasn't just about sharing information. It was about earning the right to be taken seriously. Saturn in Gemini says, I'll carry the burden of saying it right so no one has to feel uncomfortable, including me. But that contract, while noble, can become a cage because when you're constantly editing, translating, or filtering your voice, you start to believe that your truth only matters when it's perfectly delivered. To survive this karmic contract, you learned to become the adapter. You use words as protection, speaking carefully, watching how others responded, shaping yourself around what felt safe to say. You may have become the quiet observer or the eloquent explainer, either hiding your voice entirely or overusing it to avoid vulnerability. So, this often looks like saying what people want to hear to avoid conflict, overanalyzing every conversation long after it ends, feeling pressure to make sense before you express yourself, or silencing your real thoughts for fear of being judged or misunderstood. You became the version of yourself that others could comprehend instead of the version that felt true. And even when your words landed, you may have felt like they didn't actually see you because you were never just trying to communicate. You were trying to connect. And that connection always feels just out of reach. Over time, Saturn in Gemini can feel like walking a tightrope, always questioning, did I say that right? Did I say too much? Did I make sense? Do they still like me? The burden builds when you censor yourself, even in safe spaces. When you feel more comfortable writing than speaking. When you replay conversations obsessively, looking for flaws. Or when you avoid public speaking, vulnerable conversations, or confrontation, even when your truth is burning inside you. You may find that your thoughts move faster than your voice, or that your voice feels blocked entirely. You may struggle with decision paralysis, self-doubt, or imposter syndrome. All symptoms of a mind that has been overtasked with survival. But you're not here to speak only when it's safe. You are here to liberate your voice and help others do the same. Your voice is not a liability. It's your liberation. Saturn in Gemini becomes magnetic when you stop communicating to manage perception and start communicating to transmit truth. The first step to achieving this is to stop editing yourself in real time. You don't have to craft a perfect sentence to be understood. Let your words be alive, not rehearsed. Truth doesn't always come out pretty, but it lands where it's meant to. Give yourself permission to stumble, to pause, to ramble. That's not failure. That's freedom. Next is to reclaim the power of your voice, even when it shakes. Speaking up is a sacred act, especially when your nervous system learned that staying quiet was safer. Start small. Say what you mean. Ask the question. Share the idea. Let your voice rise without apology. Every time you do, you send a message to your inner child that it's safe to be heard now. Next is to trust that your thoughts deserve space, even if they're still forming. You don't need to have the perfect answer to speak. You don't have to be ready. Let your ideas unfold out loud. Let curiosity lead. Your brilliance shines not in certainty, but in the willingness to explore. You don't owe anyone a polished philosophy. You owe yourself permission to think out loud. Next is to choose conversations that nourish, not deplete. Not everyone is meant to hold your truth, and that's okay. Be discerning about where and with whom you share your voice. Look for spaces where you feel energized after speaking, not drained. The right people won't just hear you, they'll get you. And finally, Use your words as tools for freedom, not performance. You are a communicator, but not a performer. Let your voice set you free, not bind you to a role. Speak from the soul, not the script. And remember, what matters most isn't how you say it, it's that you said it at all. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Gemini is, my voice is enough. I speak with truth, clarity, and confidence, even when it's imperfect. If your soul just got a wake-up call, be brave and share it in the comments. And of course, your 3-second ritual: like, share, and subscribe to keep this energy coming your way. And if you're ready to step into your next level, explore my As Above, So Within journal to realign with your true path, or my Venus Activation Journal with prompts to raise your self-worth and magnetism, my Higher Self audio to receive clear, intuitive guidance, or book a private one-on-one with me to finally get laser clear on who you are and where you're going. Everything is linked below, so be sure to check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Cancer, your soul agreed to become the emotional backbone of your environment, the one who would keep others emotionally safe, regulated, and cared for, even if no one did the same for you. This is the contract of the guardian, the one who makes sure the family doesn't fall apart, the one who knows how everyone feels, what everyone needs, and how to keep the emotional temperature just right, often without being asked. But the wound is that you didn't choose this contract because you were already whole. You inherited it because someone else didn't know how to love you the way you needed. And so you unconsciously vowed to become what they couldn't offer. This often began early in childhood environments where emotions were chaotic, suppressed, unavailable, or too much. And so you became the container, the one who felt everything and expressed nothing. Saturn in Cancer carries a deep karmic agreement. I'll be the safe space for everyone else, but I won't expect anyone to be that for me. But you're not here to mother the world while abandoning yourself. You are here to heal the foundation and finally feel safe in your own emotional home. To survive this contract, you became the nurturer, the fixer, the quiet emotional backbone of every relationship you've ever been in. You became so good at taking care of others that you stopped knowing how to receive it. This role often looks like being the strong one who never lets emotions show, caretaking others to avoid facing your own needs, feeling guilt when prioritizing yourself, avoiding emotional vulnerability unless it's in a controlled or private way. You became the one who knew what everyone else needed while secretly starving for care, affection, or attunement. And because no one ever modeled how to give those things to you, you convinced yourself that needing them was weak. But Saturn placed this wound here to awaken something sacred. Your emotions are not a problem to manage, they are a compass to your power. The burden of Saturn in Cancer builds slowly, quietly, until it becomes unbearable. You may carry deep fear of emotional abandonment or rejection, shame around being too sensitive or too much, emotional repression that leads to numbness, shutdown, or self isolation, or a constant need to control the emotional atmosphere so nothing gets chaotic. You learned to measure your worth through emotional labor, not by being, but by holding. And the deeper you go into this pattern, the more disconnected you become from your own heart. You stop crying. You stop asking. You stop needing. But not because you transcended pain, because you've normalized carrying it alone. Saturn in Cancer isn't punishing you. It's calling you back to your inner child, the one who never got to fall apart. You are not here to mother everyone. You're here to heal the mother wound and come home to yourself. Saturn in Cancer becomes sacred when you stop overfunctioning for love and start choosing emotional safety as a birthright, not a reward. The first step to achieving this is to stop apologizing for your sensitivity. Your feelings are not too much, they are messages. Start honoring every emotion, especially the ones you were taught to hide. Crying, craving closeness, or needing reassurance doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. The moment you stop shaming your softness, you start stepping into your actual strength. Next is to create an inner sanctuary that loves you like you always wanted. You don't have to wait for someone else to make you feel safe. Build rituals that bring emotional comfort, such as journaling with your inner child, affirming your needs aloud, wrapping yourself in blankets when you're overwhelmed, or cooking a favorite meal with intention. These small acts become sacred medicine because you're not just surviving, you're reparenting yourself. Next is to let people hold you without earning it first. You are allowed to lean, to cry, to show up messy, and still be loved. Start small. Ask for help. Let someone bring you something. Let yourself be hugged longer than usual. Each time you let someone care for you, you heal the part of you that believed care had to be earned through suffering. Next is to redefine home as a feeling, not a performance. You don't have to create the perfect environment to feel emotionally safe. True home is not the clean house, the right relationship, or the external validation. It's the felt sense of belonging inside your own body. Practice returning to it daily. That's where you start to belong to yourself again. And finally, speak the emotion you usually hide. You are not here to be silent in your suffering. When your voice shakes, let it. When your needs feel scary to say them anyway. Vulnerability is not your downfall. It's your doorway back to connection. Let your heart be seen, not managed. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Cancer is, I deserve to be held. I create emotional safety from within, and I let love meet me without apology. What part felt like I was reading your chart out loud? Tell me in the comments. And of course, be sure to hit like, send this to your besties, and subscribe so you never miss your cosmic upgrade. And if this spoke to you, let yourself go deeper. Use my As Above, So Within journal to gently reconnect with who you really are, or my Venus activation prompt journal to heal your relationship with yourself. Or book a one-on-one with me for loving, personalized clarity on your path forward. All my offers are waiting for you below, so be sure to check them out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Leo, your soul came into this life with a heavy karmic contract around visibility, creativity, and self-worth. You were born to shine, but you were also taught that shining was dangerous unless it was earned, perfect, or approved. The core of this placement says, I'll become worthy of love by performing excellence. You learned that attention wasn't safe unless you were exceptional, that approval came from applause, not authenticity, that love came with conditions, and that your light had to be managed, edited, and polished before you were allowed to take up space. This often stems from early life experiences where you felt unseen, overshadowed, criticized, or overpraised for performance instead of presence. You may have been rewarded for being impressive, but punished or ignored for being real. And so the contract formed. I'll hide the parts of me that aren't applause worthy and perform the rest. But Saturn didn't come here to dim your light. It came to help you build a throne strong enough to hold your full self expression, even the messy parts. To survive this contract, you became the curated version of yourself. You learned how to be charming, impressive, creative, put together. You figured out what the room wanted and became it, or withdrew completely to avoid the vulnerability of exposure. This survival identity often looks like performing confidence while secretly battling self-doubt, seeking validation to feel temporarily worthy, overgiving, overpleasing, or overachieving to earn love, or avoiding visibility until you're perfect, prepared, or polished. You learned how to sparkle in public while quietly fearing that if people saw the real you, the insecure, uncertain, or struggling parts, they'd walk away. And so your greatness became conditional. Your self expression became a performance, not a truth. And your soul became exhausted from constantly editing its own radiance. The weight of Saturn in Leo becomes unbearable when your entire sense of worth depends on being great. Not just good, great. And if you're not shining, you might feel invisible, irrelevant, like your presence no longer has value. So you may carry deep shame when you're not on or performing well, fear of being average, ordinary, or unimpressive. Creativity blocks due to fear of criticism or rejection, or emotional numbness because vulnerability feels unsafe without applause. Eventually, your desire to shine collides with your fear of failure, and you become frozen, unable to move forward, but terrified of being seen standing still. But Saturn is not here to crush your fire. It's here to temper it until it burns from truth, not performance. You are not here to earn the right to be seen. You are here to embody the light you already are. Saturn in Leo becomes deeply empowering when you choose self expression over self editing and internal pride over external praise. The first step to achieving this is to let your art be messy and still worthy. You don't have to master something to deserve to share it. Let your creativity be wild, raw, experimental. Post the thing. Say the thing. Share what's in your heart before it's fully refined. The more real you are, the more your people can feel you. And that's the only resonance that matters. Next is to practice being seen in small, imperfect ways. Visibility isn't all or nothing. Start by letting someone witness you in a vulnerable moment. Let yourself be photographed without needing to look perfect. These small moments build trust with your inner child, the one who thought love had to be earned with performance. Next is to validate yourself before the world has a chance to. You don't need an audience to approve your greatness. Write your own praise. Name your own wins. Speak to yourself like someone who's already earned the crown. When your validation comes from within, no one can take it from you. Next is to reconnect to joy without needing to monetize or master it. You are allowed to do things just because they make your soul sing. Play with color. Dance without filming it. Sing off key. Take up space for the fun of it. This is where your life force reawakens. When you remember that joy is the reward. And finally, release the fear that your light will blind or repel. Your radiance doesn't steal from others, it reminds them of their own. When you let yourself be fully seen, not perfectly, but authentically, you light the path for others to do the same. You don't have to shrink to belong. You belong because you shine from the truth of who you are. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Leo is, I don't have to earn my light. I lead with joy, truth, and presence, and I allow myself to be fully seen. Be sure to let me know what parts hit home for you in the comments below. And if you love what you heard, be sure to like it, share it, and subscribe so the algorithm and the universe keep delivering. And if you're ready to step into your next level, be sure to explore my As Above, So Within journal to realign with your true path, or my Venus Activation Prompt journal to raise your self-worth and magnetism. I also offer a higher self audio to receive clear intuitive guidance, or book a private one-on-one with me to finally get laser clear on who you are and where you're going. Everything is linked below, so be sure to check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Virgo, your soul signed up for the sacred and often invisible labor of making things better. You didn't just inherit the responsibility to improve, refine, or support. You inherited the burden of precision, the pressure to get it right, to hold it together, to fix what others ignored or left behind. This placement often begins in environments where chaos was the norm and order was survival. Whether emotionally, physically, or energetically, you may have learned that being useful was the fastest way to stay safe. And so you became the helper, the analyst, the problem solver, the one who noticed what others didn't, and blamed yourself when things went wrong. Your contract says, I'll be the one who catches every detail, prevents every disaster, and earns my worth through perfection. But you're not here to micromanage your soul. You are here to turn precision into purpose without abandoning your own peace. To survive this contract, you became the one who couldn't look away. You saw the flaw. You felt the energy shift. You noticed the thing no one else would. And rather than let it go, you took responsibility for fixing it. This survival identity often looks like becoming the one who holds it all together behind the scenes. Obsessing over details, timelines, or performance. Being praised for your work ethic but overlooked as a human being. Or constantly questioning whether you've done enough. You may have learned to tie your self-worth to your output, not your essence. If something wasn't working, you assumed it was your fault. And even when you succeeded, you probably still found something to improve. But this role, while efficient, erases your humanity. You weren't born to be flawless. You were born to be free, even in your flaws. The burden of Saturn in Virgo is the silent, constant loop of self-correction. Even when no one is criticizing you, the internal voice never turns off. The one that says, you should have done that better. You're not quite there. Keep trying. Eventually, this can lead to chronic anxiety, perfectionism, or burnout, fear of making mistakes or being seen as messy, suppressing emotional needs in favor of staying functional, or offering to help everyone else but struggling to receive it yourself. Saturn in Virgo is the emotional laborer, the silent organizer, the one who holds up the structure while forgetting to rest within it. And the more you tie your worth to what you do, the more disconnected you become from who you are. Because you're not here to fix everything. You're here to bring love to the part of yourself that thinks you're only lovable when you're useful. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present and to turn your gifts of discernment into acts of devotion, not self-denial. Saturn in Virgo becomes truly powerful when you choose peace over perfection, service over sacrifice, and wholeness over hypercontrol. The first step to achieving this is to give yourself permission to be good enough. You are allowed to rest without everything being done. You are allowed to leave the dishes, to send the email before it's perfectly worded, to show up as you are, not the version you edited 20 times. Your value is not in your precision, it's in your presence. Let that be enough. Next is to create systems that support you, not just others. You love a system, but are you inside of the one you've built? Create structure that feeds you, not just those around you. So, weekly rituals, soft routines, boundaries that keep you from overextending. Don't just hold the container, let it hold you. Next is to honor your healing without turning it into a project. You are not a self-improvement spreadsheet. You are a soul. Stop measuring your worth by how healed, disciplined, or optimized you are. Let healing be non-linear. Let happiness come before the checklist is complete. You don't have to fix yourself to deserve to feel good now. Next is to ask for help, even if you could do it yourself. Your competence doesn't mean you have to go it alone. Practice reaching out, delegating, letting someone else carry the weight. Not because you can't, but because you don't have to. Receiving is a spiritual practice. Let yourself be served. And finally, let grace be louder than criticism. You've lived under the microscope of your own expectations. Replace it with gentleness. Speak to yourself like someone who is already whole, because you are. You are not here to get it perfect. You are here to live it with love. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Virgo is, I release the pressure to be perfect. I honor my sacred work without abandoning my sacred self. The floor is yours. What part of this video spoke straight to your soul? Be sure to tell me below. And be sure to let the algorithm know this hit. So like it, share it, and subscribe so you keep getting exactly what you need. And if you're ready to step into your next level, be sure to check out my As Above, So Within journal to realign with your true path, or my Venus Activation journal with prompts to raise your self-worth and magnetism, or book a private one-on-one with me to finally get laser clear on who you are and where you're going. Everything is linked below, so be sure to check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Libra, you came into this life carrying a karmic contract to manage the emotional balance of others, to smooth over the chaos, to keep relationships intact, to hold harmony where there was none, often by abandoning your own needs to preserve connection. This placement carries the sacred and heavy vow: I'll make others feel comfortable, loved, and seen, even if I stay unseen myself. You were born to understand dynamics, to feel these subtle shifts in energy, to know when something is off, and to take responsibility for fixing it, even if you didn't cause it. Whether in childhood, past lives, or ancestral patterns, you learned early that being lovable meant being agreeable, accommodating, or pleasant. But behind that poise, Saturn in Libra often hides heartbreak. The heartbreak of not knowing where you end and the other begins. This isn't a punishment. It's an initiation, because you're not here to merge. You are here to master the art of sacred reciprocity, where your needs matter just as much as theirs. To survive this contract, you became the one who always kept things nice. You learned how to avoid conflict, how to phrase things carefully, how to bend without breaking, until eventually you did. You figured out what others needed from you, and you became it, even if it wasn't true to your essence. This often looks like saying yes when you mean no, avoiding confrontation even when something hurts, minimizing your needs in relationships to maintain peace, or losing yourself in partnerships or people-pleasing patterns. Your survival depended on being liked, needed, or wanted. So you edited yourself to be more palatable, more pleasing, more digestible. And in the process, you may have forgotten what it felt like to belong to you. Because you weren't born to be agreeable. You were born to be authentically in relationship with others and with your own truth. The burden of Saturn in Libra shows up in relationships where you constantly monitor yourself, your tone, your timing, your truth, all to avoid rocking the boat. So this sounds like, if I set a boundary, will they leave? If I express my needs, will I be too much? If I don't keep this connection alive, will I lose love altogether? Eventually, this leads to emotional depletion masked as being easygoing, silent resentment building under surface level peace, a deep fear of loneliness that keeps you stuck in one-sided dynamics, or abandoning your desires because you're afraid they'll make things harder. Saturn will keep showing you this lesson until you realize harmony that requires your silence is not harmony. It's a performance. You are not here to keep everyone happy. You're here to create relationships that hold truth, not just comfort. You're not here to be chosen by others. You're here to choose yourself and let relationships rise to meet that standard. Saturn in Libra becomes radiant when you create relationships that are rooted in truth, not tolerance. And when you show up in love as your whole self, not just the pleasing parts. The first step to achieving this is to let no be a sacred act of self-love. Your boundaries are not rejections. They're reflections of your self-worth. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to the life and love you actually want. You are not difficult. You are discerning. Let your no create space for the right yes. Next is to stop equating disagreement with disconnection. You don't have to mirror someone else's opinion to stay close. You can be in harmony without being in agreement. Let your relationships stretch to hold both voices, yours included. That's not disruption. That's depth. Next is to ask, what do I want? And let the answer change things. You're so good at sensing others' needs that you might forget to ask your own. Make it a practice to check in daily, hourly if needed. What do you want? What do you feel? What do you need? Then take one brave step toward honoring it, even if it's uncomfortable. Next is to choose relationships that don't require self-abandonment. Start noticing, do I feel more myself with this person or less? If love costs you your wholeness, it's not love. You are worthy of partnerships that hold your fullness, not just your emotional labor. And finally, speak your truth. even if your voice shakes. You're not here to be a reflection of what others want to hear. You are here to be heard. Practice saying what you really mean, even if it disrupts the dynamic. If your truth ends the relationship, it was never safe enough to begin with. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Libra is, my truth creates real connection. I honor my needs, speak my heart, and create love that holds all of me. What part felt like I was reading your chart out loud? Tell me in the comments below. And if this lit a fire in you, show it some love with a like, share it with your people, and hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. This is your upgrade moment. Use my As Above, So Within journal to get back into alignment, or my Venus Activation journal to embody your worth, or book a private one-on-one and start living like the main character in your own life. All my links are below, so be sure to check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Scorpio, your soul signed one of the heaviest contracts in the zodiac. You came here to walk through emotional depths most people avoid: betrayal, loss, power struggles, taboo truths, and the raw underbelly of human connection. Not to be punished, but to transmute. This contract says, I will go where others refuse to look. I will feel what others suppress. I will survive what others fear. Often, this begins early in life through experiences that force emotional maturity, sexual awakening, trauma, or psychological intensity far too soon. You may have grown up sensing secrets, manipulation, or unspoken pain, and you learned to carry it silently. You didn't just experience pain, you became the container for it. But Saturn didn't place you here to be broken. It placed you here to become the one who knows how to move through darkness and emerge sovereign. To survive this contract, you built armor. You learned to guard your heart, read between the lines, and never fully trust what people show you on the surface. Vulnerability felt dangerous. Attachment felt risky. And so you became self-contained, intense, observant, and emotionally private. This often looks like holding deep feelings but sharing very little, needing control to feel safe, testing people before trusting them, or keeping emotional walls up even when you crave closeness. You became the one who could hold everyone else's shadows while hiding your own. You learned to be strong in silence, powerful in restraint, and composed even when you were breaking inside. But protection slowly turns into isolation, and the fortress that once kept you safe starts keeping you lonely. The burden of Saturn in Scorpio is the fear of surrender. You may feel that if you don't stay in control emotionally, financially, sexually, or energetically, something terrible will happen. That being open means being betrayed. That being vulnerable means losing power. This can show up as trust issues that sabotage intimacy, obsession, jealousy, or emotional extremes, a pattern of trauma bonded relationships, or chronic fear of abandonment, even when things are stable. You carry the weight of every past wound in your nervous system, and Saturn will keep pressing on it until you realize power doesn't come from control. It comes from emotional sovereignty. You are not here to be armored. You're here to be free inside your own depth. You are not here to suffer forever. You are here to alchemize. Saturn in Scorpio becomes its highest expression when you stop identifying with trauma and start using it as a doorway to power. The first step to achieving this is to choose healing over hypervigilance. You don't have to stay on guard to stay safe. Begin to soften where you've been braced. Trauma-informed therapy, somatic healing, breath work, and shadow work can help release the fear stored in your body. You don't need to stay in survival mode to survive anymore. Next is to let someone know the real you. Choose one safe person and begin to open slowly, honestly, without over-explaining or performing strength. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the moment your soul steps out of hiding. You don't have to be invisible to be powerful. Next is to release control where it no longer serves you. Notice where you grip in relationships, finances, or emotions, and ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I let go? Then practice releasing, just a little. Let life meet you. Let love surprise you. Next is to use your depth to heal, not to punish yourself. Your intensity is a gift, but only when it's directed toward growth, not self-destruction. Channel it into transformation, journaling, ritual, art, intimacy, or spiritual work that helps you metabolize what you've been carrying. And finally, trust that you can be loved without being guarded. You don't have to be mysterious, strong, or in control to be worthy of love. Let yourself be seen in your softness. That's where real connection begins. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Scorpio is, I release the need to protect myself from love. I am safe to feel, to open, and to transform. Okay, be honest. What part did you not want to hear but needed to? Be sure to share it below in the comments. And be sure to tap like if you felt called out in a good way. Pass this on to your besties and subscribe to keep growing with me. And if this spoke to you, let yourself go deeper. Use my As Above, So Within journal to gently reconnect you with who you really are. Or my Venus Activation Journal with prompts to help you heal your relationship with yourself. Or book a one-on-one with me for loving, personalized clarity on your path forward. All my offerings are waiting for you below, so be sure to check them out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. You were born with a karmic agreement to be a truth bearer, but not just any truth, the kind that pierces illusions, confronts dogma, and stretches the collective towards something higher, even when it's uncomfortable. With Saturn in Sagittarius, your soul made a sacred vow to protect the fire of meaning, even when you were the only one willing to stand in it. This placement often begins with being misunderstood, silenced, or dismissed, especially around your beliefs, dreams, or the way you see the world. You may have grown up around rigid ideologies, spiritual confusion, or a lack of deeper purpose. So you internalized the burden. I'll make it make sense. I'll rise above. I'll become the map maker. But Saturn in Sagittarius isn't just about seeking wisdom. It's about what happens when wisdom becomes weight. When you start believing you must always have the answer, the meaning, or the perspective that saves the day, or else you're failing your purpose. You didn't come here to blindly believe. You came to embody your truth and let it evolve. To survive this contract, you became the knower. You learned to lead with answers, with vision, with optimism, even when you were still questioning everything inside. You might have become the guide, the teacher, the one others looked to for direction. But behind the scenes, you didn't always feel as certain as they assumed. This survival identity often looks like speaking confidently while silently doubting yourself, needing to justify your life choices with deeper meaning, over explaining, over teaching, or over philosophizing to feel safe, or even becoming overly attached to a belief system or worldview as your identity. You learned how to perform wisdom and how to suppress your vulnerability when you didn't know the way forward. You became so committed to rise above that you stopped allowing yourself to break down. But real wisdom doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from being brave enough to ask the real questions. The burden of Saturn and Sagittarius is the internalized demand to always be above it all. You may fear that if you're confused, uncertain, or questioning your path, you failed your purpose. And so you keep moving, chasing the next insight, the next truth, the next hilltop that proves you're still growing. This can lead to feeling ashamed of doubt, apathy, or loss of faith, spiritual burnout from always holding the perspective for others, disillusionment when your beliefs no longer resonate, or guilt for changing your mind or needing to start over. Eventually, the climb toward meaning stops feeling like expansion and starts feeling like exile. Because if your truth doesn't allow space for your humanity, it's not real truth. Saturn will keep applying pressure until you realize you're not here to perform clarity. You're here to live with courageous honesty. You are not here to have it all figured out. You're here to walk your path with integrity, even when it's messy, non-linear, and unfolding in real time. Saturn in Sagittarius becomes magnetic when you choose curiosity over certainty and presence over performance. The first step to achieving this is to let your beliefs be living things, not statues to defend. You are allowed to change your mind, to evolve spiritually, to walk away from ideas that once defined you. Your truth doesn't need to be static to be sacred. Every time you outgrow a belief system, you get closer to your authentic path. Next is to share your perspective as an invitation, not a prescription. You don't have to convince to be impactful. Let your voice be a doorway, not a doctrine. Share your lived wisdom with humility, honesty, and the understanding that everyone's journey will look different. That's not weakness. That's mastery of self. Next is to normalize doubt as part of your spiritual practice. Doubt doesn't disconnect you from your truth. It refines it. Let questioning be a ritual. Let not knowing be a portal. You're not lost. You're deepening. Faith isn't certainty. It's the willingness to keep walking even when the road disappears. Next is to anchor into inner truth, not external proving. You don't need to validate your path with credentials, consistency, or applause. You don't need to be impressive to be wise. Live your truth because it feels real, not because it looks good. And finally, let joy, not pressure, guide your expansion. You are here to explore, to experiment, to laugh loudly, live boldly, and learn through adventure, not obligation. Your soul craves movement, yes, but also meaningful stillness. Let happiness be your compass again. Not perfection, not performance, just aliveness. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Sagittarius is, I honor the truth that's still unfolding within me. I lead with lived wisdom, not borrowed belief. Let's talk about it. What did this unlock for you? Be sure to comment and let it out. And if you love what you heard, be sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe so the algorithm and the universe keep delivering. And if this spoke to you, let yourself go deeper. Explore my As Above, So Within journal to realign with your true path, my Venus Activation Prompt journal to help you heal your relationship with yourself, or book a private one-on-one with me to finally get laser clear on who you are and where you're going. Everything is linked below, so be sure to check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Capricorn, you were born with a sacred vow to become the structure others could lean on, the one who keeps going when no one else can. Your soul agreed to embody responsibility, to be the anchor, to make the impossible feel achievable through sheer strength, strategy, and willpower. But here's the part no one sees. You didn't choose this contract consciously. You inherited it, whether from your ancestors, your family system, or your past lives. You were handed the weight of leadership without the permission to rest. You likely grew up fast, emotionally, mentally, or even physically. The world may have expected you to know better, be strong, or push through before you even knew what your own needs were. Praise was given for being stoic, productive, or dependable, not for being soft, messy, or needing help. This contract made you believe that your value is tied to your output, that being good means being in control, that the highest form of love is sacrifice. But your soul didn't come here to carry the weight of the world. It came here to redefine what strength truly is. To survive the pressure of this contract, you stepped into the role of the provider, protector, and producer. The one who gets it done. The one who doesn't break. The one who earns their worth by proving it again and again. Your identity became a performance of stability. You learned to be the person others could count on, the one who stayed calm in crisis, the one who held everything down while your own emotions were buried under obligation. This often looks like becoming hyper-responsible, even in childhood, measuring your worth by how useful or productive you are, taking on family or societal expectations without questioning if they're aligned, or feeling emotionally unsafe unless you're in control. The world celebrated this version of you. It called you strong, disciplined, successful. But no one asked, at what cost? Behind the mask of maturity is a soul that has been carrying too much for too long, without being asked if it wanted to. The burden of Sagittarius and Capricorn becomes unbearable when you internalize the belief that you are only lovable if you are doing everything right, that you have to earn your place in the world by being better, faster, smarter, or more accomplished than everyone else. Eventually, this burden takes its toll. Burnout, disguised as being driven. Numbness that looks like stoicism. Loneliness masked as independence. Or deep shame around rest, softness, or not being in control. You may find it hard to ask for help or even recognize when you need it. You might struggle to receive support, affection, or validation unless you feel you've earned it. And underneath the polished exterior, you may feel like an imposter, terrified that if you ever stopped holding it all together, everything would fall apart. This is Saturn's trap. The fear that if you let go for 1 second, you'll lose everything you've worked so hard to build. But strength that never allows softness eventually becomes a cage. And your healing begins when you remember you don't have to prove your worth. You already are it. You are not here to be a machine. You are here to build legacies that last because they honor your humanity, not in spite of it. Saturn in Capricorn becomes truly powerful when you stop sacrificing yourself for achievement and instead anchor into values that nourish you. The first step to achieving this is to redefine what success means to you. You don't have to chase someone else's version of accomplishment. Let go of the titles, timelines, and external markers that were never yours to begin with. True success comes from integrity, from living a life that feels right, not just one that looks right. Ask yourself, what does a successful life feel like in my nervous system? And build from there. Next is to rest as a radical act of worthiness. You are allowed to slow down, not after the work is done, but because you are human. Rest isn't a reward, it's a requirement. The more you honor your limits, the more sustainable your power becomes. Let rest be part of your rhythm, not a breakdown, but a birthright. Next is to allow yourself to receive, not just provide. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. You are allowed to fall apart, to be soft, to need, to let people show up for you. Let love come in without conditions. Receiving doesn't make you weak, it makes you whole. Every time you allow someone to support you, you heal a piece of the pattern that told you you had to carry it alone. Next is to choose structure that supports you, not traps you. Capricorn energy loves systems, but not all systems are built for your soul. You have permission to walk away from anything that makes you feel small, stuck, or spiritually disconnected. Build rituals, boundaries, and routines that honor your real needs: emotional, physical, and spiritual. Your structure should serve you, not enslave you. And finally, lead from integrity, not expectations. You are a natural authority, not because of titles, but because of truth. The world needs your wisdom, but not at the cost of your joy. Lead by example. Be the person who chooses alignment over achievement, who speaks truth over people pleasing. That's the kind of leadership that leaves a legacy. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Capricorn is, I release the need to prove myself. I lead from alignment, rest, and radical self-trust. If your soul just got a wake-up call, be brave and share it in the comments. And of course, be sure to hit like, send this to your besties, and subscribe so you never miss your cosmic upgrade. And if you've been repeating the same emotional loops, my As Above, So Within journal helps you break the pattern. These prompts guide you into the deeper layers of your chart so you can finally shift from survival to self-awareness. So be sure to tap the link below to start your breakthrough. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Saturn in Aquarius carries one of the most paradoxical soul contracts. You were born to challenge the world and also hold it together. Your karmic responsibility is tied to systems, truth, and authenticity. But this contract often begins in deep emotional isolation. You were tasked with being the one who sees what others can't, questions what others accept, and holds the vision for a future that hasn't arrived yet. But instead of being celebrated for your insight, you may have felt rejected, misunderstood, or labeled as too much, too weird, or too intense. From an early age, your soul knew it didn't quite belong. And so you carried the unspoken weight of belonging without fitting in. You became the observer, the quiet reformer, the one who had to detach to stay sane. But underneath that detachment was a sacred duty to remain yourself, even when the world demanded your conformity. This contract says, I'll hold the frequency of truth, even if I have to do it alone. But isolation was never the point. The real mission is to model a new kind of connection, one that doesn't require self-erasure. To survive this contract, you became the observer, not the participant. You learned to live in your mind, in your ideas, in your visions, because that's where it felt safe. You stopped expecting people to understand you. Maybe you even stopped trying. And over time, the distance became a defense mechanism. This role often looks like being emotionally detached, even when deeply sensitive, identifying with being the different one or the black sheep, overriding your emotions with logic, because that's how you stay in control, or keeping people at arm's length, afraid that being fully seen will lead to rejection. You may have told yourself, I don't need anyone. But the truth is, you've always longed for connection, just not the kind that asks you to shrink, conform, or pretend. And so you became the lone visionary, the social architect, the one who can fix broken systems, but struggles to let people see the most human parts of you. The burden of Saturn in Aquarius becomes unbearable when your authenticity feels like a liability. When you internalize the idea that being different means being alone. That if you let people too close, they'll either not understand you or worse, try to change you. Eventually, the emotional walls start to crumble. You feel disconnected, even when you're surrounded by people. You intellectualize your feelings to avoid vulnerability. You became cynical about community because you never felt truly seen. Or you carry shame for being too much or not enough, sometimes both. You might create rigid rules around independence, believing that asking for help or needing connection makes you weak. But beneath the cool exterior, there's a quiet ache for resonance, for tribe, for a space where your whole self is not just tolerated, but celebrated. Saturn in Aquarius teaches you this. Your uniqueness is not a punishment. It's the blueprint. You don't have to choose between truth and connection. You are here to show the world what it looks like to belong to yourself and still let others love you. When Saturn in Aquarius becomes conscious, it doesn't shut people out. It creates a new standard for what connection looks like, which is authentic, spacious, sovereign, and deeply real. The first step to achieving this is to let your weirdness be the bridge, not the wall. Your uniqueness isn't something to hide, it's the invitation. When you let others see the real you, unfiltered, unpolished, unedited, you don't lose love. You call in the people who are meant to walk with you. Stop trying to be relatable and be resonant. Your truth will attract your true people. Next is to stop abandoning your humility for the sake of logic. You are brilliant, but your emotions are not a glitch in your system. They are the system. Let yourself feel. Let yourself need. You don't have to have a rational explanation for every emotion. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of care. Let your mind partner with your heart, not silence it. Next is to create the community you've been missing. You are the architect of new paradigms. If you don't feel like you belong, it's because the space you need doesn't exist yet, because you're meant to build it. Start the conversation, launch the project, host the gathering. Your community is waiting for someone like you to go first. Next is to stay in integrity, even if it's lonely at first. You are wired to challenge norms, not out of rebellion, but out of reverence for what could be better. Don't dilute your voice just to be accepted. Speak truth, even when it shakes the room. Yes, you may lose some people, but you'll gain alignment, and that's everything. And finally, soften the wall without losing the boundary. It's safe to be open and discerning. You don't have to pour yourself out to everyone else, but you also don't have to isolate to stay safe. Practice letting others see just a little more of you, the real, raw, unscripted you. And notice who leans in with love. Those are your people. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Aquarius is, I honor the truth of who I am, and I trust that my authenticity is what magnetizes my tribe. What's the one part you're still thinking about? Be sure to leave it in the comments below. And of course, if this lit you up, hit like, share it with your soul squad, and subscribe so you never miss the next download. And a single session with me can change how you see yourself forever. I'm ready when you are. The link to book a one-on-one with me is below, so be sure to check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. With Saturn in Pisces, your soul made a vow to be the vessel, the empath, the dream catcher, the spiritual container for the pain, confusion, and chaos others didn't know how to process. You weren't just born intuitive. You were born responsible for the emotional atmospheres around you. And that responsibility became your identity long before you had the language to describe it. This contract says, I'll be the space. I'll absorb what's unspoken. I'll soften so others don't shatter. But it was never meant to be a sentence of self-abandonment. It was meant to be a gift of divine compassion once you learned how to protect your own essence. You likely grew up around emotional instability, spiritual confusion, or deep, unconscious patterns. And so you became the invisible healer, the one who sensed everything, carried everything, and disappeared just enough to keep the peace. But the truth Saturn wants you to remember is that spiritual depth doesn't require self-sacrifice. Compassion doesn't mean collapsing. Love doesn't mean leaking your light to fill someone else's void. To survive the weight of this contract, you learned to disappear. Not literally, but energetically, emotionally, spiritually. You dissolved your edges so others could stay comfortable. You swallowed your pain to avoid creating more. You shapeshifted into whatever version of you felt safest in the moment. This often looks like being hyper attuned to everyone's moods and needs, suppressing your own desires to avoid conflict or rejection, escaping into fantasy, spirituality, or caretaking roles to feel safe, or feeling guilty for saying no, setting boundaries, or putting yourself first. The role you played was noble, but not sustainable. Because in trying to be everything for everyone, you abandoned the one soul you came here to embody, your own. You became a dream for others to project onto. But now it's time to wake up as yourself. The burden of Saturn in Pisces becomes unbearable when your sensitivity isn't protected, only exploited. So you may have taken on the pain of others as your own and never known how to release it. You may have lost yourself in relationships, spiritual paths, or creative work with no grounding. You may have felt ashamed for needing boundaries, structure, or space. And you may have mistaken self-sacrifice for love and exhaustion for purpose. This is the shadow of Saturn in Pisces. The belief that your suffering is sacred, that being drained is a sign you're doing something right, that being overwhelmed is just part of the calling. But martyrdom is not your medicine. You are not here to disappear for the world. You are here to dream it into something new with your whole self intact. You are here to hold space for miracles, not absorb everyone's chaos. Saturn in Pisces becomes the most powerful when you learn to honor your energy as sacred ground and stop abandoning yourself in the name of spiritual service. The first step to achieving this is to build boundaries that protect your magic. Your sensitivity is a superpower, but only when it's contained. Create energetic, emotional, and practical boundaries that keep your channel clear. Boundaries aren't walls. They are sacred rituals that protect what's precious. The more you ground your gifts, the more potent they become. Next is to stop mistaking self-erasure for compassion. You are not helping anyone by disappearing. Compassion doesn't require you to lose yourself. In fact, the most healing presence is the one that's fully anchored in its own truth. Let your yes mean yes. Let your no mean no. That's not selfish. That's sovereign. Next is to create daily rituals that anchor your energy. Pisces energy floats, but Saturn demands containers. You need practices that tether your spirit to the earth. Breath work, grounding meditations, journaling, movement, creative expression. These rituals are not routines. They are return points, places where your soul remembers it's safe to be here. Next is to trust that being seen won't destroy you. You may fear visibility, attention, or even your own power, because being seen has often led to overwhelm or violation. But your gifts are meant to be witnessed. When you trust yourself enough to be fully present, the right people will hold you with reverence. You don't have to hide to stay safe. You just have to choose who sees you. And finally, stop waiting to be pure enough to be worthy. You don't need to be healed, perfect, or spiritually ready to live your life. Saturn in Pisces can create a constant loop of emotional preparation. But your life doesn't begin when you ascend. It begins when you show up, messy, real, sacred, and human. A great affirmation for your Saturn in Pisces is: my energy is sacred. My presence is powerful. I protect my light by honoring my boundaries. Let's make this a full circle moment. Share your biggest aha or ouch in the comments. And of course, show this video some love with a like, spread the magic to your friends, and subscribe so the universe keeps sending you these vibes. And if you're tired of repeating old patterns, my Venus Activation Journal walks you through reconnecting with your self-worth and rewriting your love story from the inside out. So be sure to click the link below and check it out. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching.